Hello everyone, once again you find yourself watching Natural 9, the weekly show on the internet where we try to condense Critical Role into 9 minutes or less, and then we pass out halfway through it, wake up on Bourbon Street, realizing we recorded 50 hours worth of dialogue and condense it down to 22 minutes. That's the fate that I've resigned myself to. As always, I'm your host Arthur from Natural 9, and this week, let's just get right to it. There's a lot of stuff that happened this week, so let's go ahead and cover it all. So as you recall, last week the party decided that their next step is to start staging some sort of counter-siege environment or some sort of battlefield out at Fort Daxio, the fort afforded to the army of Taldore through Iman, of course. Thankfully this week we have Ashley Johnson live in the studio, and that means that it's time to pick up Pike, fill her in on everything, and she's more than happy to join the party because she loves them. They're her friends. She would never leave them. Then a slight problem is encountered. They have no way of getting to Fort Daxio. Keyleth can't scry to find a tree there because she doesn't know anyone there, and no one else seems to know anything about the area either. After a bit of a yakety sax moment where people of all kinds are consulted, Gilmore included, they find out that Allura could bamf them over there because of course she can, because she's the absolute best ever. I'm a bit thirsty now, I don't know what's going on there. So she bamps them over. Daxio ends up being a bit sparse, kind of deadish vegetation, not too many trees. But the main draw, of course, is the fort itself, which looks incredible, like a great fortified stronghold, at least from the outside. Vox Machina lets Allura take the lead on this because she, of course, is the boss. So she takes the lead. When they're allowed in, the party realizes that the troops at Fort Daxio are kind of badass. They're outfitted with some crazy-ass armor, very much in line with the kind of armor you'd see from the Kraghammer community, actually. They're also armed with crossbows, tower shields. I wouldn't be surprised if they had huge-ass pauldrons and basically called themselves Space Marines. I know nothing about Warhammer, okay? Don't talk to me about it. I just know the memes. There is a boss. There is actually one of the generals at Daxio, a badass named Ellie Goravon, who is kind of a little tense at the fact that her compatriots from the regiment that went out to Singorn are kind of not there. She's been waiting for word from the Council of Taldore for a long time. They give her word. Vox Machina tells her that they're all safe in Singorn, which is safe in the Feywild, and she calms down a little bit, knowing that her crew is still alive, so she calms down, and then the talks begin. So discussions are had between Ellie and the crew, specifically about the fortifications of Fort Daxio, the fact that it's built a little more pragmatically than most other forts out there. They ask about the current regiment there, which is about 225 strong, but they're low on supplies because their trade routes have been cut off by some of Thordak's wacky wyverns, and of course communications have been cut off as a result. Vox Machina says, hey, it's cool, we'll help out with supplies from the place that must not be named. It's Whitestone, they're talking about Whitestone. And Ellie asks Allura if Vox Machina is cool. Allura says, hell yeah. So the idea that it's time to bring Thordak to Fort Daxio to fight him is discussed, and Ellie actually approves. After all, Vox Machina did apparently fell 3 of the 5 of the Chroma Conclave, so if anyone can do it, it's them. And of course, they need to prepare. They need to prepare a lot of stuff. So it's time to do something very important. We're gonna do a montage! No, we're not gonna do a montage. They do need some time to prepare, though. The preparation begins with, unfortunately, near no chance of being able to grow food in the area because that earth is salty. Then they come up with the innovative idea, to convert the magnificent mansion into a chicken-themed soup kitchen. It's a very good idea. Helps feed the soldiers at Daxio. Ellie's a little surprised at that very idea.
Keeping her eyes trained on you, she leans over towards Allura. I can't tell. Is the little man fucking with me?
Yes, I'm lost.
Allura goes, usually yes, but no, he's being completely honest right now.
Well, lots of preparations are discussed. Percy talks about maybe fixing some of the broken trebuchets in the area. He starts also thinking about other ways to fortify Fort Daxio. Keyleth thinks maybe it's a good idea to build a trench or bunker. Grog asks about the travel time from Daxio to Iman, and he also asks if the soldiers here are trustworthy. Ellie says they can get bored, and some of them are drained because of boredom. She truly believes they're trustworthy, at least the ones that live. Grog loves that, and he's sold. During all this prep time, the twins decide to go take a trip up to the sky because that's what they can do now. They can fly. They don't really find much, and a failed perception check later, they head back to the ground. More preparations done. Scanlan, the bouncer, makes sure the only people on the list go into his house of chicken. Keyleth starts working on the bunker, and Percy manages to set up a trebuchet sexily. Forgive me, Sarah Draper, I have sinned. The next morning, Allura asks the crew what they want to do next. They decide contacting people, more preparation, and more preparation. They also talk a little about how Raishan's quote-unquote death might move up the schedule if she ends up doing it way earlier than they expected. Maybe they do have a smaller window of opportunity than they thought. And they also think maybe traveling to the Feywild to go retrieve Singorn might be a bad idea because last time they returned, it fucked with their minds, and apparently it could also fuck with time. Although the half-elves were planning on going, they would have been fine. So many things on their list of ideas are falling apart. Besides, there's a whole litany of people that they need to contact. People at Singorn, the Feywild's resident wolf pack, the Herd of Storms, the former Herd of Storms, whatever they call themselves now, the Slayer's Take, Jamon's Sword, maybe, the Ravenites, the Dwarven Craghammer, Auxiliary Vox Machina, the Arashari, Earthbreaker Groon. There's just a lot of people out there, but how the hell are they going to contact them all as soon as possible? Allura, of course, because she's literally the most perfect person on the planet. I just need a drink of water. That's what it is. That's what it is. So Allura sends a message to Sildor, and the werewolves, and the War Master, Mikkel, so Singorn knows that shit's about to go down. So the party decide to tackle the other possibility on their list. Collect the Plate of the Dawn Martyr. Except maybe not. A couple things hold them back a little bit. Vax thinks that the whole thing is a waste of time and they should be working on preparing. And besides, they forgot completely that the real Assume, was supposed to be picked up by Raishan so that they could all hash out what's actually going on in Iman. Just a lot of rhyming all of a sudden. Ultimately, Vax is kinda convinced by the crew to follow this thread for a bit. After all, they could also talk to the Fire Ashari about this whole Ember Seed situation that is apparently binding Thordak to the elemental plane of fire. And besides, Pikey needs some new armor. So after hoofing it to look for a tree to transport through, they return to the Cinder Grove. And it's really nice. It's really, really nice. It looks like the Fire Ashari live on and they're rebuilding. And we're greeted by Serkonos, who is actually doing pretty well for himself. His arm's back. It's not a stub like last time. Keyleth clues him in on the details of Thordak's connection to the Fireplane and starts asking a bit about the time that Raishan spent among the Fire Ashari to learn about this connection. And then finally, after all this time, Keyleth acknowledges that it wasn't her fault. She's so convinced that it was her fault this entire time, and now all of a sudden, she realizes that it wasn't. I love you, Kiki, but you never had to blame yourself. This was never your fault. And I'm glad you're finding closure. I'm also kind of sad that you guys are going to the City of Brass because apparently it's some crazy ass shit. Even Serkonos doesn't want to go there. After all, it is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Besides, it would take them 3 days to travel by walking from the entrance to the Fireplane. But now that Keyleth is well aware of it, she could easily plane shift them there. Serkonos won't go with them, but he will do his best to help out on the outside, telling them that he's going to gather the Ashari, gather any Ashari that he can to fight, including some of the Air Ashari, so Corin, Keyleth's dad, is going to be involved in some way. And to answer the question from earlier about Raishan's time with the Fire Ashari, most if not all of her associates inside the Fire Ashari are dead, so not much information to give there. The next stop, the elemental plane of fire. Specifically, the City of Brass. They realize that the fire plane is still as fucked as last time. The air is caustic, everything's warm around them. It's fucked. It's just fucked. Everyone agrees that if something goes really wrong and they need to get the hell out of there, they need something better than Jenga. They need Super Jenga. Super Jenga is the code word. There are 2 large doors in the center of this massive wall around the City of Brass. Upon approaching the walls, they see that they're guarded by several beings. Humanoid in shape, not so much in size. They're definitely not humans. They are, in fact, the crazy creatures from the last time we were in the Fireplane, the Afriti. Turns out that the city of Brass is their capital. I did research on a D&D thing. Yay! Of course, Scanlan takes point because there's no one that can bullshit better than the master of shit himself. Scanlan's lie, using the major image spell, to make it look as though Vox Machina had a pet. A very special pet. A Garistro. Unfortunately, it doesn't help all that much. The Ifrit are looking for payment for entering into the city. Vex does what she does best. She shoves a 20-pound bag of gems into his hand, and they accept it. Wait, hold on, what, hold on, Vex, what? The fuck did you just do? Anyway, after that fantasy dream sequence, the party somehow manages to get into the city of Brass. Vex and Parlay, what the fuck? Once they get in, they decide to maybe use the spell Locate Object to try to find the Plate of the Dawn Martyr. And they also recall where it's supposed to be hidden. It's collecting dust on the wall of some random fire giant who won it in a bet. The city of Brass, by the way, is actually a lot nicer on the inside. Architecture-wise, it's beautiful. It's even older than on Corel, and there are all sorts of people around. You know, creatures of all kinds. A lot of Ifrit. Some humans, bound in chains, serving the Ifrit in some way. Yeah, looks like slavery is alive and well in the city of Brass. They kind of ignore that for now, though. Keyleth had Locate Object. Anyway, she and Vex discuss how they're going to use it, thinking maybe they should fly around, concentrate on using it for a while. All the while, Keyleth tries to look for any human or humanoid that doesn't seem to be subjugated. At this point, a lot of stuff starts going down. Specifically, we've got two Ifrit flanking the crew from the back, and two beings, both in white robes, very interesting beings, catching the attention of half the party in the front. The two beings are a tiefling, male tiefling, long grayish hair, red skin, basically gender swap Zara, and the other one's some strange kind of reddish creature with interesting hair, pointed ears. So these two creatures catch the attention of Vox Machina, or at least half of them, so they go and check them out. So it's the twins that are really interested in this guy. Behind them, Percy, Pike, Keyleth, and Scanlan kind of back away, kind of running into the Ifrit that are behind them. Percy's that little jam in the middle that makes sure that everyone's connected. The guys in front are like, hey, we don't know who you are, but... And then they turn around, see the Ifrit, and they're like, okay, follow us. Vex and Vax, kind of curious, follow. Percy's like, God, I'll stick in the middle. While Kiki, Scanlan, Pike, and Grog all have to deal with these Ifrit in the back, who are very interested in Grog. He is, of course, not interested in being the point of interest, so he smashes his Titan Stone knuckles together, becomes big, and that just makes them want more. Oh god, they're into that. So some attempts at trying to get the hell out of Dodge are made. Pike fakes like she's gonna go to the Temple of Pelor. That just makes them be like, yeah, we'll get you there. We'll get you there. She tries to cast the Zone of Truth. Unfortunately, she loses concentration halfway through casting the spell because she gets shoved into an alley. Grog's still kinda like, no, I'm not gonna fight, but I gotta kill my bros. Kiki tries to negotiate. That fails, and she gets unceremoniously thrown into the same alleyway. Scanlan's finally the one to bullshit his way out because he is the bullshitter. He casts Dominate Monster, catches one of the Ifrits, tells him to get his bro to lay off. Initially it works, but the second Ifrit's a bit smarter than Scanlan afforded for. So Scanlan's like, hey, kill him, motherfucker. And so a scuffle happens. So the four that were being harassed by the Ifrit to get the hell out of there, Scanlan a little later than the other ones just to make sure his bros are safe. Good on you, Scanlan. Meanwhile, the elves and Percy are being guided by these two others who tell them to go into an alleyway on the right side instead. They all run away. The rest of Vox Machina catches up to them eventually, and they all manage to squeeze themselves into a tiny-ass room. Who are these crazy people? They'll introduce themselves in a bit, actually, because right now they just need to make sure that they're hidden. So the party reunites inside what's basically a broom closet. Vax tries to strike up some conversation again because he was the one who initiated the conversation with the two that ran away with them. Doesn't earn them that much information, considering they need to shut the fuck up for a minute. But they do say they are jewelers in the city of Brass, who Vox Machina now owes a favor. Kiki runs an inside check on the couple, gets some information, through a whisper of course, and we are finally introduced to the two beings. The tiefling is called Utan. The strange being, apparently, according to crit roll stats, Ganassi, is called Sino. Apparently they're very hard to read according to Vex's inside check. The party are then invited to the workshop of these two jewelers, They all sit down at the table of these two strangers. Vex casting locate object to try to find the plate and within her radius. Doesn't find it, unfortunately. The hosts want to cash in their favor, but first they want to know why Vox Machina was in the city of Brass so unprepared in the first place. They're asked about Thordak by Vox Machina. They do know the name though, so at least they know that. And they don't trust dragons. So then discussions are had about what's going to happen next. Percy says that he wants to find some power to defeat a dragon, and that a fire giant has control of it. There are 3 fire giants in the city of Brass, don't seem to be under subjugation, so maybe a little easier to find. So Senecure is very interested in helping the party out, if only because they already owe him a favor, and now they would owe him another one. So he decides to help out the party, but they figure that the best way to do so would be to search. And with all of them being rather conspicuous in the city of Brass, figures the best way to travel along with them is to blend in with the crowd. And I don't mean something like transforming them all into a freak or anything like that. After all, they're magic. They won't be fooled by any of that. No, Senecure thinks that maybe they should go for a more practical approach. No magic. Just make it look like they're slaves. Manacles and all. It's a bit kinky. Bet you at least 2 of Vox Machina are into it. So, the crew reluctantly agree to this. Percy saying, we're not going to actually be your slaves. We're just going to do this and owe you some favors. It's all good. So the hunt for the plate begins as the party starts walking out into the city of Brass, into one of its nicer neighborhoods. Out of the frying pan and into hell. So that's it for this week. Shit is fire, yo. You think that they're making the right decision? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like what you see. You can follow me on Twitter here, and you can follow this Twitter for any episode updates. I've been Arthur from Natural 9, and is it Thursday yet?